We talk about workshop magic a lot, don't we? Taking a machine that appears to be hopeless and forgotten and giving it a new lease on life, a new opportunity to strut its stuff. And that couldn't be any more true than of Carmen's grandmother's 1918 Singer 66-1 that arrived at the workshop just appearing to be without any hope whatsoever. But you know what? I'm a determined guy, and I'm gifted with many gifts and talents. And I poured that into this machine, and I think you'll see the proof in the pudding that this machine has a new lease on life, a new opportunity to celebrate Christmas with Carmen and to remember and rejoice over all the memories attached to this incredible 1918 machine that was born in September of 1918 on the day of the 17th. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. one? How about another one? What a great song. That is so much fun to sing to, too. That is. That's a great quote, isn't it? Some days, life is all about your dreams, hopes, and visions for the future. But there are some days where life is just about putting one foot in front of the other. And that's okay. Yeah. And I do that on some of these photos that I post on Facebook, is I'll just put in something random and people really seem to get a tickle out of it. So I hope you, even if you're not a Facebooker, find a way to pop over there. And I'm going to start adding the links for these photos as well in the description of these premieres, and afterwards the live streams as well. So you can always go back and revisit those photos as well. They're revealing about the process. They're also revealing sometimes in giving insights to folks that are struggling with issues with their own machines. So I make it a kind of a dual purpose of showing you what I did to Carmen's grandmother's machine, and then you can take those ideas and processes and steps and plug them into your own project as well. And here what I'm doing obviously is re-dyeing that serial number plate. And that's the side of the bobbin winding tire assembly right there that you're seeing. Can't read the top of that, I'll read it to you because I think it's kind of cut off in the shot. Me? I'm tired of cooking, cleaning, laundry, dusting, telemarketers, bad news, worse news, and really crazy people. Other than that, I'm just peachy keen. And here I'm really scrutinizing the original foot controller that Carmen sent with the machine. If you don't know it, the 66-1 was set up exclusively as a treadle machine. It's the same machine that my good friend Bill O'Rourke has down in Kissimmee, Florida. It wasn't designed to be motorized, but someone at some point decided to motorize this 66-1. I don't know if it was Carmen's grandmother or someone in between Carmen's grandmother and Carmen ultimately receiving this treasure of a machine. There's nothing wrong with motorizing a machine, but it wasn't intended to be a motorized machine when it was set up originally as a treadle exclusive machine. And the unique thing about the Dash 1 again is that instead of screwing on the presser foot attachment from the side, it's attached from the rear. And that right away sets this machine apart. But that foot controller had a lot of problems going on with it. And ultimately you'll see in the final testing of it what I discovered and why I ended up eliminating it and replacing it with a near identical foot controller that didn't have the same chronic flaw that Carmen's foot controller did. So I'm starting out with the idea of salvaging this. Again, I always like to come from a standpoint of preservation rather than replacement or restoration whenever I can. But in this case, you'll see why I had to go with replacement. But it was exactly the same type of foot controller that was with this machine when it came to the workshop. All of these copper contacts have to be cleaned inside of the foot controller, just as they do with inside of the motor as well. Anything that's part of that electrical field. It's all part of the bobbin winding assembly. And I tear it all the way down because it's the only way to do a proper restore of it. That's a cute one, isn't it? I think you can read that on screen. The unexamined life is not worth living. On the other hand, the examined life ain't so hotsy-totsy either. I don't think I could have seen her saying hotsy-totsy, but yeah, who knows? Who knows? Just like back in the day, men were men, women were women too. And they talked a little bit different though, didn't they? And they dressed different as well. So here I'm doing some fine cleanup on all the way down to the bolts and screws. I don't try to miss a thing when it comes to restoring a machine, especially one like this that has such great family sentimental value, with it being Carmen's grandmother's machine. So there you can see that the side of that bobbin winding assembly, that's where the winding tire gets mounted, and it was just covered in rust, as were a number of the other parts of the machine as well. And there's, after quite a bit of cleanup and polishing and scraping with dental tools, we're starting to get that look back, the way it would have looked when it left the factory back in 1918. 1918. And if you're not familiar with this type of bobbin winding assembly, it uses that really cool pendulum distribution for the thread as it's going out of the bobbin, going from side to side like this, distributing that thread just beautifully, using these worm gears to do that. This is the back of that assembly. Every part has to be restored because it's a mechanical component that anything left behind is going to restrict its ability to function as it was designed to do. I should go back to that real quick. Look at this piece up here that has gotten that restorative magic in the workshop. All of a sudden you can see the beauty of that coming back into scene, and you get an idea of what it looked like back in 1918 before all of the stuff of life had an impact on it and created all of that veneering and varnishing and all the crud that built up on the machine that belongs to Carmen's grandmother that was just choking the life out of the machine. Look at that. Absolute beauty right there. Absolute beauty. See all those little grooves? All of those grooves need to be cleaned too, otherwise this will not be able to do its job. It's a very meticulous, surgical, detailed process that's taken in the workshop. Never, ever, ever would you get this at a general service center where they're gonna rush through your machine in about 45 minutes, doing just the high points of it, not digging into the machine as I did in the workshop. So much is missed. So much is missed. Look at that stuff. Just choking the life out of the machine. We got to do something about that. We got to do something. Here you can see I've touched it. Here I haven't yet. What a difference. All the way around. All the way around. What a difference. Starting to really make an impact now. Starting to make an impact. Wow. Wow! What a difference. Yep, that's the way it should look right there. And I think we went full circle. Nope, not yet. That's a cute one, isn't it? We get by with a little help from our friends. It almost sounds like a Beatles tune, doesn't it? Yeah, the Beatles. Oh yeah. Even after going through it with those dental tools and doing fine cleaning and restorative intervention, I still treat it with special solutions to break down the rest of the stuff that I somehow couldn't reach, so that mechanism is just going to flow just silky smooth. Silky smooth. Oh, wow. Wow, look at that. Ha ha! Yeah, baby. It's time for a gumball break. It's time for a gumball break. And if you all don't know Paula Noel, you must be brand new to this channel. Paula had seen some of my shots before showing these gumballs, and she said, oh my goodness gravy, because that's the way Florida people talk. I would love to get a container of gumballs like that. And I just said, well, you know, okay, cool, whatever. And I secretly mailed her some. Oh, she's a happy camper. She's a happy camper right now. Gumballs are just great. That takes us all back to our childhood, I think. Hopefully you weren't denied gumballs when you were a little tyke back in the day, because they are a little bit of magic. And just for fun, I'm kind of putting them on this brand new, squeaky clean bobbin winding assembly, and you'll see them disappear one by one. I won't say where they're going, but they're going to a good place. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Wow. There goes one. Here goes number two. Only one left. Get it while the getting is good. Ha ha ha! Yeah. And I think that's full circle. I think it's full circle. Yeah. So I talked about the foot controller that came with the machine when Carmen brought it to the workshop, or when I brought it to the workshop, I should say. I actually picked it up at her house. You're gonna see now why that foot controller did not stay with Grandma's machine. If you can't see it in the shot, when I fired this up and I was doing the testing on it, it started to glow bright red, and it's not supposed to do that. Nope, not even close. Major fire hazard. The crack in the ceramic made this vulnerable, as that electricity is surging through this foot controller trying to find its way to the motor. It was just too much for this original foot controller that came with this machine. So I had to find a replacement. And I found one identical in my stuff. Yeah. I love stuff, don't you? So we're kind of looking inside of this original foot controller right now. That's all combination of rust and also burn marks on it as well, where this foot controller had been having some challenges for some time. And you'll see some other shots that kind of show that scorching. And foot controllers are such an essential component of the sewing matrix that has to be serviced very specifically. The foot controller and the motor work in concert with each other, and you've got to do a detailed service on both of them to get that machine optimized. And here you can see some of that scorching right there, where previously, unbeknownst to Carmen, because again, a foot controller is generally encased. It's down on the ground somewhere, on a wood floor, on carpeting, wherever it is. And it's doing its job. It's trying to do its job. And if it gets super hot, unless you sew barefooted like my friend Annette from the great state of Texas, if you're not a barefoot sewer, you're not going to notice when that foot controller starts to superheat and get super hot. And underneath that metal casing, unbeknownst to you, there may be fire and flames brewing, and you have no idea. You got no idea. But when I do a detailed servicing and a restoration of a machine like Carmen's grandmother's machine from 1918, I'm going to discover it because I go through it with a fine tooth comb. I go through it at a surgical approach, unlike any service center in the world. And that makes all the difference in the world. And you know what? In this case, it might have saved Carmen from getting seriously hurt. It might have saved her house from burning to the ground. It was that serious. When you got fire brewing inside of that closed space and you don't know it's there. You don't know it's there. Lots of wiring challenges, obviously, with this machine when it came to the workshop, between the motor, the foot controller, and anything electrical, including the light. You really see the scorching right there. The wiring was, oh my goodness gravy, it was in bad shape. There you can see the crack. This is actually a 2-tier type ceramic assembly inside of this older style foot controller. Normally it's a single stack. Here it's a double stack. The bottom stack, directly adjacent to this insulation that is between the metal and the ceramic, was just cracked through and through. And as that electricity was racing through there, it actually set that insulation on fire. And I couldn't determine, because it was so badly scorched, if it was original asbestos or another material, so I didn't breathe deep around it. You know what I mean? I didn't take any deep breaths. You can really see the crack there. And again, most people are never going to open up their foot controller. They're not going to open it. They're not going to know that this has been cracked over time and that it's going to be a source of fire. It's going to be a source of fire. And that had been happening all along. It had been happening all along. Carmen didn't have a clue. She didn't know. How would she? Right? How would she? All scorched right through here. It's time for some animal crackers. This was a major project, and between gumballs and animal crackers, does anyone else love animal crackers? Are they one of those age-old snacks that you never, ever tire of? And I don't know if you eat them just plain like I do in the workshop as a quick energy boost, or if you have them with coffee or tea or hot chocolate or something else like that. But type in the chat, do you like animal crackers? How do you eat them? How do you enjoy them? I'd just be curious to know. And because this is a pre-shot premiere, I've got a chance to respond a little bit better than I normally do with the live streams as far as what you're writing in the chat. And I hope you take time to step out of the shadows and join us in the chat. We've had so many wonderful, wonderful people do that from all around the world, from Finland, from India, from Africa, from Sweden, from Canada, and I'm probably missing some other wonderful countries that our friends have joined us and stepped out of the shadows into the light and said, yeah, here I am, It's so great to welcome you, and all of our other friends love welcoming you as well. So if you haven't done it yet, step out of the shadows so we can have the privilege and honor of welcoming you to this premiere of Carmen's grandmother's 1918 Singer 66-1. Would you do that, please? Oh yeah, those animal crackers are going to disappear in a heartbeat. They're gone. They're gone. Sorry, no sharing in class today. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. So now I'm focusing a little bit on that motor, looking at doing some rewiring to that motor as well, getting it so that it's safe. There's our pulley that comes off of the output shaft on the motor. Just what a mess. What a mess. And as that motor spins up, any junk on that pulley adjacent to the belt is really going to hold that machine back. Really got to go after that, don't we? Yeah, we do. Oh my gosh, that's so nasty. It's so nasty. And thank goodness for dental tools. I can really make a dent in that. Get that all cleaned up and get it right. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. That's the way a pulley should look on that output shaft, so that there's nothing that's going to be holding that machine back. And that belt, which I had to replace as well, can bite into that pulley and give some real positive traction, some direct drive to that machine. Oh yeah, that is just a look of beauty. I got to do it. I got to do it. My whistle's a little bit dry. All right, you got the idea. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Wow. Ha ha ha. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Wow, that looks a lot different. A lot different. Ha ha ha! I love clean things, don't you? Oh, wow. Wow! And that is the bobbin winding assembly before I went through and restored it. It was, you can see, it was a mess. Oh my gosh, it was a mess. There's our stop action, our little end cap for the end of the balance wheel that allows us to wind a bobbin. Also a mess. More components that I stripped off of the machine, getting it ready to be re-clear coated. This was not a total restore. Mechanically, yes. Electrically, yes. But the original paint, the original decals stayed with this machine. I went through over the paint very carefully, and then I tried to bring back that life and luster through commercial grade clear coat, multiple layers of it to try to bring back that beauty. There was also a lot of touch up on the bed as well that I did by hand. I didn't want to have to charge Carmen for masking off that bed and trying to do it in the paint shop. So I painstakingly went through it with some really, really fine brushes. And it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but boy does it look better than it did when it came to the workshop. Upper tension was just a mess, and thankfully I was able to get that back into shape as well. There's a faceplate that's part of the jewelry, as many of you refer to it, starting to come back and really being able to show its stuff again. There's that nasty belt that really, really needed a lot of help, which was throwing it in the garbage can in this case. It had lived a good life. It had served that machine well, but it was beyond its expiration date. So I put on a brand new belt that'll really, really serve Carmen well for many years to come. You just see the belt on the side there is just totally degraded. It's just an awful state. When a belt gets like that, it can't do its job anymore. Go ahead and replace it. It's okay. It's okay! all that cracking. Oh my gosh. Need I say more why that belt needed to be replaced? And there's, when you're not completely confident about an electrical system and you're doing some provisional testing of it, never have it on a flammable surface like carpeting or wood or anything like that. Put it on a cement floor and have a fire extinguisher nearby. That's what I do. That's what you should do. Please stay safe. And if you didn't notice, I also replaced all of this cord as well, and also the junction plug-in box, which was in a horrible state. Checking the electricity to make sure that that foot controller is fully charged before I test it. Notice I've got a wood mallet so that I'm not going to get shocked off of it in case that cracked ceramic is allowing the electricity to spike up. There's that awful crack right there. Part of that scorching already, you can see, that's been happening over time. I've decided that it's not safe and I've thrown it into my wastebasket. Or as my friends from the UK say, it's going in the dustbin. It's going in the dustbin. Yeah, it is. All the scorching through there. I've got to pick out another foot controller that's suitable for this machine. And there it is, waiting to be unveiled. Just waiting for its opportunity, waiting for its turn to serve Carmen's grandmother's machine. But even this one's got some nasty wiring on it, so that's going to come off straight away. Plus I have to service that entire unit. Even though it's in my inventory, doesn't mean it's ready to do the job. Notice this one does not have that crack in that lower tier of that porcelain stack. It's a safe foot controller to put into service. But I'm going to take it through my process anyway. Get it up to snuff. Get it ready to do the job. And that's the beginning point. That's the original foot controller. Again, why was it replaced? You guys are really smart. You guys are super duper smart. I am not going to send a foot controller out to a customer that could catch fire again and could harm that customer or burn that house down. It's not going to happen. No, all right, get the grandkids and the kids out of the room. Just get them out of there for a moment, because I'm going to say a naughty word. No crap leaves this workshop, okay? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So that's why it went into the dustbin. But now Carmen's got a good, safe foot controller that she can use for many years to come. I wanted to take you through all of those progress shots because now I'm going to get the lights back on in the workshop and you're going to be able to see Grandma's 1918 Singer 66-1 after it was immersed in workshop magic. Yeah, you can. A little bit of dramatic music to do this unveiling. Ha ha ha! Lights on, please. Lights on. Remember what it looked like. Remember where we started. I love it! Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this machine is from the year 1918. Someone do the math and tell us how old this machine is in the chat, would you? Born in 1918, this is 2021. How old is this machine? And then pinch yourself to see if you can really believe it. Give yourself a little pinch, would you? Let me tell you about the setup we have today. I've never done this before. We're going to be sewing with, and I don't have a lot of it, so we might run out of it and have to go to regular polyester type thread. But we're going to start out with 100% silk thread. 100% silk. I've never used 100% silk thread before, and being the rebel that I am, I'm supposed to be using a size 70 or 80, preferably a Microtex type needle. I'm going to use a Schmetz size 90 universal, because we're not going to be just sewing the light side. We're going to be sewing some protected full grain leather also, using silk thread, folks, using silk thread. Now, when you're setting up a machine like this to sew with silk thread, let me tell you, it's real tricky to get that tension right. And it's not what you think. It's not struggling to try to get that lock stitch defined with a super lightweight 100% silk thread like this by Gutermann. I should mention that. Give Gutermann credit where credit is due. It's the top stitch that you struggle with. The lock stitch almost comes into form straight away, but that top stitch, oh my goodness, that just battled me. Oh, that battled me, but I won. But to give you an idea of where we started with this, that was our top stitching that I was getting from this. Real weak. But like I said, that lock stitch, look at the lock stitch using this 100% silk thread. The lock stitch came into form real quick. But eventually, from the bottom to the top, you can see that top stitch starting to come into form. That top stitch is starting to come into form. At the bottom, we're not there. We're starting to gradually squeak it up. And then all of a sudden, bang, we got it. And again, I was monitoring very closely the whole time to make sure that we didn't lose the definition of that lock stitch either. Because as you're adjusting a stitch, whether you're trying to tighten up that lock stitch or you're trying to tighten up that top stitch, you got to constantly be monitoring the impact that you're having on the other side of the material. Otherwise, you're going to take it too far. So with all that blah, 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 and also if this machine looks like it's doing a little bit of a wheelie, it's because I got it leveled right now using those furniture pads, and then I've got some non-skid material underneath the furniture pads so that this machine will stay as stable as I can keep it, because it's not in the table, obviously, that Carmen will be using it with. So, gotta be a little bit clever, you know? So again, our setup is 100% silk thread by Gutermann. I'm really kind of excited to show this to you because we've never used this type of thread before on this channel. And I should be using probably closer to either a Microtex size 70 or 80, or maybe this Schmetz embroidery needle that's right here. That would have been a better choice. This is what I'm using here. I like to make it as challenging as possible. Yeah, why not? So speaking of challenging, let's sew out of the gate. Let's sew leather using 100% silk thread, 100% silk thread. Let me zoom in on this so you can see it more closely. Notice that presser foot. Notice how that's mounted to the rear. That is immediately telling you that this is a 66-1. And if you want to know what Bill thinks of 66-1s, just get him on the topic. You'll never be able to shut the guy up. He loves his 66-1 down in Kissimmee, Florida. All right. Let's give this a go, and I'll turn the music down. Turn the music down, you can listen to this 66-1 do its magic. All right, here we go. That is some beautiful stitching. Wow. Wow. Most people will tell you that you shouldn't be sewing silk thread with a size 90 needle. We are. They'll also tell you that you really can't sew leather with silk thread. But silk thread gets a bad rap because it is ridiculously strong when it comes to its tensile strength. It's ridiculously strong. And so it's more than capable of doing that. I'm looking for my sew off holder here. Let's take a look at these stitches. This is obviously our top stitch. The stitch that I struggled with as I was setting this machine up. And now it is just spot on. And this again is protected full grain leather. Protected full grain leather, I'm going to pause right here and take my hand off the camera. Protected full grain leather is treated with a chemical to protect it against staining. As soon as you treat leather with something that's going to protect it from staining or give it greater durability, you're pushing that piercing threshold up through the roof. Even though this is a single layer of protected full grain leather, it's 3 to 4 ounces of protected full grain leather, okay? It's tough stuff to get through, and we're using a size 90 Schmetz universal needle, no worries there, but we're sewing with 100% silk thread. 100% silk thread on protected full grain leather. I don't think you'll find that anywhere else on the internet. I don't think anyone else is crazy enough to give that a go. We are. We absolutely are that crazy. Because crazy equates to fun. Totality of the stitching, go to right about there. Folks, that is a solid page 34, if not a solid page 34 plus. And I'm going to give it a page 34 plus plus because we just sewed that and laid down page 34 stitching using the wrong needle. We should be using a much smaller needle. And we're sewing with 100% silk thread on protected full grain leather. All those things together are just blah! It shouldn't work. It should not work, according to all the people out there in those Facebook groups and all the other little circles of knowledge. They're saying it's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah. Come to this channel if you want to see the impossible. Am I right or am I wrong? Type in the chat if you like seeing us push the boundaries. If you by nature are a rebel, you're in the right place. Welcome home. Welcome home. Yeah, baby. Oh, it's fun. It's fun, isn't it? Yeah. All right. So let me come out in this shot. Let's get this set up for our next sew-off. And I'll just give you a quick little, I'll give you kind of the high points of this machine. It's a real simple machine. Let me just say that. The beauty of the 66-1 is it's not a tricky machine to use at all. Here we've got our stitch length controller right here, this knob. If you screw it all the way in clockwise, you're going to get the longest stitch possible, which is going to be right around 6 stitches per inch. If you unscrew it counterclockwise, like I'm doing right now, you're going to start shortening up that stitch dramatically, where if you go and go, you're going to eventually be able to get down to about 30 stitches per inch. Teeny tiny. We're not going to go that far, but we're going to push the limits a little bit here. So I'm going to put this protected full grain leather back in place. And now that I've adjusted the stitch length to make it quite a bit shorter, we're going to stitch down this one more time. And I've got to really watch that thread on top, because this spool only comes with 110 yards. I think it's 110 yards. Something like that. It's a smaller spool because it's 100% silk thread, and they don't want to give you a ton of it because then you won't come by and buy more of it. Yeah, and I bought this at Joann Fabrics. If we run out, I'll put on some more common thread, but we're gonna have some fun with it in the meantime. All right, let me zoom in on the needle, and let's sew another line of stitching with this 100% silk thread, and we'll watch this machine dance through another stitch off. Right about there. Right about there. All right, here we go. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. And I'd have to measure it to tell you how far down we are. We're not down to the max for sure. And in fact, I'll grab a little tape measure and give you just a spitball guess on how many stitches per inch we're at right now. I'm guessing probably around 6 to 8. Probably closer to 8. Somewhere in that neck of the woods. Look at both of these rows at the same time, but I'm going to get a little measurement first. Get a little measurement first. So that is right around an inch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I was pretty close. We're at right around 8 or 9 stitches per inch right now, with that subtle adjustment that I made to the stitch length controller over there. So we could go a lot further than this, but we'll take a look at these stitches and see what we think. And I'll spin it around so we can look at that lock stitch as well. We'll look at that lock stitch also so you can see the balance factor. It is a little tricky when you're sewing with 100% silk thread. a better angle. Okay, so we're looking at the top and the bottom stitch. Stitch rows at the same time. That is a solid page 34, and that lower row as well, where we're right around eight stitches per inch. Beautiful stitching. I love doing live streams for you guys, but I'll be honest with you, I'm really a fan of this camera as well. It gives me a lot better clarity when I'm wanting to show you stuff than that live cam thingy does when I'm doing a live stream. And it maybe my connection isn't fast enough, and maybe you're seeing it with greater clarity on your side, but every time I look at it, I get, oh, I wish I was using the other camera. There's our totality of stitching right there. I didn't go completely out because it would be too far out. Folks, those are solid page 34 plus stitches. And again, because we're using a less than ideal needle and we're sewing with 100% silk thread by Gutermann, I am incredibly pleased with the quality of the stitching that we're getting on this 100% protected full grain leather. I mean, we're doing the impossible, even sewing leather using this silk thread. And with the setup that we have, it's making it even more challenging, which is telling you straight away that Carmen's grandmother's machine from 1918 is off the charts right now in delivering just absolutely page 34 stitching. So let me flip it over and we'll look at that lock stitch before I forget to do it, which is going to be a bit of a challenge to see. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for us to see it. We'll be able to catch just a little bit of a glimpse on the ends, but in the middle it's going to be a booger to see it. Have any of you used 100% silk thread before? They generally don't recommend it for quilting. So if you're a quilter and you've used 100% silk thread, you are a rebel, because they say that it's not an issue of the strength, it's a fact that the 100% silk thread tends to unravel. It unravels. And so there it becomes problematic when you're talking about a quilt that's going to get a lot of wear, a lot of pulling, a lot of pushing, and kind of stressing that thread a little bit. There, we've totally lost it. That silk thread has gone stealth, except for on that top row there. There, it's really coming to form beautifully. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Solid page 34 plus stitching for that lock stitch. There it comes back into form again, beautifully again. So I'm going to give that a definite pass. Totality of the stitching is a little bit of a laugh there because you can't see it clearly. But I'll tell you one thing. I love this 66-1 that belonged to Carmen's grandmother. After I've taken it through the process, it's electrically, it's mechanically, it's a lot more pretty to look at, duh. But it is just sewing off the charts. And with a setup that is really going to press this machine to its limits. Really going to press it to its limits. Now, if you don't know, the one advantage that I have in doing this test of this silk thread with a less than ideal needle and all that kind of stuff is that this sewing machine comes with what kind of a hook system? What is the 66, the class 66, what does it come with as far as a hook system? Is it a long beak shuttle? Is it a vibrating shuttle? Is it a rotary type hook system? Oscillating hook system? Chain stitch? So many choices, so little time. Actually, we have as much time as you guys will give me. So a definite pass on this protected full grain leather, and I'm going to leave this open space down here so that Carmen can have a little bit of fun with it as well. I'll throw that to the back. Now I've got another type of leather here. Does anyone recognize it? Right there in the foreground. Does anyone recognize that leather? It kind of looks like a protected full grain leather, but it's not. It's actually Italian that's dyed a totally different color. So we're going to try sewing a little bit of Italian leather now, single layer, and see how this machine can manage that sew off, which is a challenge. It's a little bit of a challenge. It's a fun song, isn't it? Yeah, I like it. First of all, though, I'm going to wipe off the bed. I even had a hank hair on there. How did that get on there? I know how. Because I was up by him having my DeWalt jacket on, which was a mistake. DeWalt jacket always stays down in the workshop unless I'm going out to greet a customer. And I picked up a couple of hank hairs. He's a crafty little bugger. Before you know it, he's up there and he's loving you, and all of a sudden he's transferring all that hair all over my jacket. What is up with that? Hank, what are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? All right, let's try a little bit of this Italian leather and see how this 66-1 manages this. I'll probably just do one row because I'm looking at that silk thread and we are getting way, way, way down there on the spool. I'll show you. We got this set up underneath the presser foot. I'm going to pop over by the spool, and it probably has more thread than I realize, but I'm still going to play cautious a little bit. See that? We're getting down there. We're getting down there. But this silk thread is, I'll definitely pick it up again. I am so impressed compared to that 100% rayon stuff that I showed you guys before. Look at that upper tension now. You could eat your meal on that, but please don't do that because then it'll totally screw up your lock stitch. Yeah, all that sticky stuff can, yeah, you know what I mean. You guys are smart, yeah. So let's try this Italian leather. Now, I did not test this off camera. I did not test this off camera. And again, you'll notice the unique design of the presser foot attachment on the Dash 1 because it mounts on the rear. See how it's got that little bend to it? Right as it's coming off the presser foot bar where it's attached on the rear. It's got that bend so that that presser foot kind of extends forward. What it does is it kind of throws off the presser foot pressure a little bit. I've talked about this before on the Dash 1. And Bill, who is so aware of his machine, his Dash 1, he right away said, I agree with you. Instead of that presser foot pressure going straight down from the bar, it's kind of being pressed on an angle. And so you got to be even more mindful of presser foot pressure when you're dealing with a Dash 1. You just do. As opposed to the side-mounted ones. Yeah, you do. Okay. All right. So let's try this Italian leather. See what we think. Let's see what we think. I didn't test this off camera. Hopefully I'm not setting myself up for failure. Here we go. I mean, it just runs silky smooth, just like the silky thread, the silk thread that we're using right now. And the other thing I love about this particular Italian leather is the grain on the back is so flat. We're going to be able to see that lock stitching like a dream. It's going to be like a dream. You know what else I love about this silk thread, this 100% silk thread? It's so easy to cut with my little clippers. Some of that thread, I'll hit it like 2 or 3 times trying to cut through it, and then finally it'll be like, okay, whatever, you're on camera, we're not going to embarrass you anymore, Scott. But this silk thread, you just give it a little touch with those clippers and it goes, choop, done, done. Take a look at this stitching on this Italian leather. Italian leather is really nice stuff. Have you ever sewn on Italian leather before, any of you? If you haven't, you got to try it. You see that edge right there? I'm going to get my hand off the camera. That's about 4 ounces of leather, folks. 4 ounces of leather, and we're sewing it with 100% silk thread by Gutermann. 100% silk thread. You got to pick some of this stuff up. It is so impressive as far as its strength. It just puts that rayon stuff to shame. Beautiful stitching. And we could probably, on this Italian leather, we could even increase the pull of that bobbin case a little bit more. And we could do that one of two ways. How could we do that? If we wanted to make that top stitch even a little bit more defined, because as you go through different types of leathers, you sometimes have to make subtle adjustments to that tension. It'll impact how that thread is being laid down. And here I'm seeing a really good solid page 34 stitch, but the Italian leather is trying to goof around with that top stitch just a little bit. It's going to give it a little bit of an alignment strain as it's pulling that into form. And we can fix that straight away by doing one of two things. While you're typing in the chat what that is, I'm going to get a little drink of water. So if you typed in the chat, the way we can tighten up that top stitch just a little bit, even though it's near perfect, it's at a page 34 level, we can either increase the bobbin case pull, or we can decrease the upper tension to tighten it up a little bit more. If you said that, something to that effect, you're absolutely spot on. And in your honor, I'm going to ring the bell, because that's exactly the right answer. Again, the bobbin case is going to be pulling down. The upper tension is going to be pulling up. And if that upper tension has a little bit more muscle than it needs, it takes away from that top stitch. But we still have a real good solid top stitch. Just could benefit from maybe a little bit of a tightening up. Solid page 34, solid page 34. We're always committed to making it better, aren't we? What's our word that we use to talk about our commitment to making something better? Type in the chat, would you? Beautiful top stitch. Beautiful top stitch. Totality of the stitching, come out to right about there. Folks, that is some gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. And we're doing it again with less than ideal circumstances. We've got 100% silk thread being laid down with a size 90 Schmetz universal needle. That was part of my, I didn't quite like the look of the stitch, and I didn't have that material angled quite as much. Now it's really, yeah, that's pretty doggone good, but I would make it better by either increasing the bobbin pull or decreasing the upper tension, but still it's spot on. It's absolutely spot on. And for the fact that we laid it down with silk thread on Italian leather, yeah, I'm very pleased, very, very pleased. Let's flip it over and look at the lock stitch. And again, I love this Italian leather. Unlike that protected full grain leather that we just sewed, that makes it kind of tough to see that lock stitch because of the nap. Here we've got a real clean nap on this Italian leather, and we can really, really take a look at that lock stitch up close and personal. And you can even see as we launch into it, that stitch length is a little stubbier than it needs to be. And that's for two reasons. One is I never adjusted the upper tension, or I never adjusted the stitch length back to full length. I never screwed that stitch length controller back in. Oops, oops. And also, we're seeing a little bit of a stubbiness because that upper tension is a little bit too high right now. And when an upper tension is too high, it's gonna compress that lock stitch. It's only, I mean, it's minutely compressed. It's a beautiful lock stitch. But again, because we're committed to Kanai, constant and never-ending improvement, I'm just pointing it out that we could make it even better. We could make it better. But it'd be hard. That's a gorgeous lock stitch, isn't it? That is a drop dead, wow, lock stitch. Wow. Does anyone else like Italian leather? I like it a lot because of that nap factor. We don't have to struggle, even from this distance, we don't have to struggle with looking at that lock stitch and going, holy mackerel. Wait a second, Scott, you're using a size 90 Schmetz universal needle with 100% silk thread and it laid down stitching like that on Italian leather? What? Yeah, it's what we do here. It's how we roll. It's how we roll. Because don't we love people coming to this channel and watching the stuff that we do and they're shaking their heads like, that is not possible. But I'm seeing it done. I'm witnessing it being done on this channel. It's what we do here. We have so much fun and we don't care about boundaries. We don't care about what people say is not possible. We just do it. And there it is right there on screen for you to see it. And you know what? I'm going to sew it one more time, even though we're getting really, really low on thread. I'm going to sew it one more time now that I've increased that stitch length even more, just to see what impact it has, if any, on the stitch output. We got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it. But in the meantime, we'll come out and just admire this incredible machine from 1918. 1918! All right, let's get this back into position. Now that I've given it a full stitch length, we'll lay down one more stitch row right next to it. I'll zoom in on that so we can watch closely as that stitching is being laid down. Right about there, I think it's good. I like this angle too because you can, if you look closely, you can see the thickness of that leather. This Italian leather is thicker than that protected full grain leather. All right, let's give this a try again. Take up arm all the way up. Is anyone else, if you've never used it before, is anyone else, based on what you're seeing here with me sewing protected full grain leather, Italian leather, is anyone else getting excited about going to Joann's or going to your local sewing center and picking up some 100% silk Gutermann thread? Are you? I hope you are. I'm excited to try it again. I got to pick up more of this stuff. Yeah, I do. All right, let's give this a go. And again, our stitch should be a little bit longer this time because I screwed that stitch length back in again. I screwed it back in again. All right, here we go. Yep, there we go. Now I'm ready to go. Here we go. Oh yeah, you can see the length of that stitch. After I went through this machine, that stitch length knob is really super sensitive. Super sensitive. So this bottom row is the one we just did. And yes, I picked kind of a mix of music today, but part of that mix, as far as genre, is jazz. I got some jazz kicking today. Okay, So let me get this in place. I'll do this in order. I'll do this in some sort of order here. So the top row is the first row that we did. The bottom row is the second row we just did. And again, we're using a size 90 Schmetz universal needle with 100% Gutermann silk thread, 100% silk thread. You just look at that straight away and you can see the size difference in that stitching. It just shows you, even though this is an old school type machine with that screw in type knob instead of a lever, you can get some precision stitching as far as stitch length using that knob once the machine is optimized. Kind of go across here. And again, I would tighten up that top stitch a little bit, but I'm not going to do it right now. Because all in all, you can look at it right here. All in all, especially that bottom row that we just did second, I'm really pleased with that. I'm very, very pleased with that. That's absolutely spot on. That's a solid page 34 plus as far as stitching. But just remember, if you're using, depending on the type of thread you're using, if you get a little bit of a stitch where the edge of that stitch is kind of pitched up a little bit, and you're thinking, why is it like that? 99% of the time it's going to be a matter of your setup coupled with your bobbin case is not getting quite enough pull down to define that and to pull that stitch into perfect alignment. Beautiful stitching, beautiful stitching. Totality of the stitching, we're going to come right about to there. I'll get my hand off the camera. Folks, I am really, really pleased. And I'm really falling in love with 100% silk thread. Surprisingly strong. The fact that we're sewing it on this leather. No thread breaking, nothing, no issue like that. Like when we're using that 100% rayon stuff, it's just a nightmare. Trying to adjust the tension down so far so the thread wouldn't keep breaking. Here we're sewing leather. We're using a universal size 90-14 needle by Schmetz, and we haven't had a single thread break. It's just zipping through it like bam, 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 done. And it's laying down some gorgeous stitching. Stitching we could improve by tweaking that tension just ever so slightly, but it's laying down stitching that is absolutely brag-worthy. There it is in front of you right there. You can see it. It's absolutely brag-worthy stitching. So if you ever question, can I use silk to sew leather? You now know. You now know. It'll definitely sew leather. Such peaceful, calming music. I've got holiday music tied into this too, so hopefully get some holiday sound. At any rate, a definite pass. Let's turn around and look at that lock stitch on the back. And again, the lock stitch will be on the bottom row. And again, I love this Italian leather because we can see the stitching so clearly. It's so clear. Kind of zoom in on this. Wow. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Totality of the stitching, folks, that is an absolutely gorgeous lock stitch. And It's got that spacing, that definition, exactly like we want to see it. And if we took just a little bit of its definition away, we wouldn't lose any of the clarity of the stitch, but we would be able to give some of that victory back to that top stitch, which if we were sewing a ton of this stuff, that's exactly what we would do. Either increase the bobbin pull or decrease the upper tension, and we would have, yeah, we'd have exactly the same thing. We'd have near perfection, because even then we could make it better. But it's absolutely brag-worthy, and it's a definite pass. I'm going to throw that to the rear. Very impressed, very impressed. So we've done protected full grain leather, we've done Italian leather, and I wanted to start out by sewing those leathers because no one would expect to see that happening when you're using 100% silk thread. They're just not going to be looking for you to be sewing leather with silk thread. It doesn't make any sense. It's what makes it so utterly fun, doesn't it? So before we launch into a little bit of the lighter side, let me do this. Let me come off of the tripod and get a little bit closer so you can see this machine. Also, I'll show you the threading of Carmen's grandmother's machine as well. So you remember what it looked like on camera, right? It is the same machine, folks. That is the restorative magic that happens in the workshop and the paint shop, I have to say that. And yes, I do the paint work and the restores on machines to bring them back to their glory. Absolutely, it's mind-blowing that it's the same machine, same paint, same decals, just got a facelift. It went in for a facelift. And there you can see the actual serial number. You want to look it up and confirm. G6455716. Look at some of the other aspects of the machine. Remember what that medallion looked like? Remember what that stitch length controller looked like? Remember what that bobbin winding assembly looked like? Woo! Remember what that stop action looked like and that balance wheel all chipped up and gnarly looking? Yeah. Again, the bed is not as perfect as a machine that I took through a full restore, but it's come back to life considerably. It's come back to life considerably. So it really has become an heirloom now and a showpiece for Carmen with, apart from some touch-up on the bed, all original paint, all original decals. And with that clear coating and conditioning paint work I did, it's brought back that luster and beauty to the machine as well, giving it just a wow factor. Just a wow factor. And look at that faceplate. Remember how grungy and plain it looked? Now it's eye candy. Now it's utterly eye candy. So much fun. Even these plates over here, these are all original plates as well. Brought all of that beauty and luster back. Original light assembly that came with the machine when it came to the workshop. Also did all the chrome cleanup on there as well. New wiring for the light as well, just like the motor, so that the machine is safe to operate. Oops, I just knocked over my water. At least it's not open. There's that plate on the rear. This machine, when it came to the workshop, did not have this rear plate cover. It wasn't there, so I added it because that's really part of the jewelry, isn't it, for the machine? And even though I repainted the plate cover that would be there, that would be just a plain black, that's attached to this lighting assembly. It just wasn't as ornamental and as pretty without this outside plate on. So Carmen, I threw that into the mix. Didn't even charge you for it, which I'm happy to do. Touch up on the motor as well. Brand new wiring block over here. Wiring block. Brand new wiring. So the machine not only looks 200 times better, it's also absolutely safe to operate now, which is even more important, isn't it? I think so. You got to keep Carmen safe as she's enjoying her grandmother's machine. So this is such a sense of accomplishment. And I should share with you what Carmen wrote in her note. Let me get back on the tripod and then I'll grab her note that she just sent me after she had, her friend Connie kind of pointed her to finding the posts on Facebook. And when Carmen saw the posts on Facebook, she was just like, I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it. But I know what you're capable of, Scott. I know the magic that you bring, the passion that you pour into these machines. And she said, let me read what she wrote. It's kind of cool. We'll put on a little bit more music. I never heard any holiday music. What's up with that? What's up with no holiday music? Now I'm just going to go totally holiday. Genre. We want holiday music. We're past Thanksgiving now. By the way, I didn't say it. I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope all of you had a great, blessed Thanksgiving. There we go. Let's get some. Yeah, there we go. Now we're ice skating. I remember ice skating as a boy and how many times I fell and never got hurt. I don't know. How is that possible? When you're young, you can fall and you don't get hurt? And if we get older, we fall and everything breaks on us? I don't know. I don't know about that. So I'm kind of debating what we're going to sew next. We could do that 100% polyester ribbon material. That would be a fun thing to sew. And that silk thread would probably really do well with it, you know? Yeah, why don't we do that? Wait a second, I was going to show you something. I'm just totally brain farting here. I can't even remember what I was going to show you. And because this was pre-shot, you can't, not like a live stream, you can go, hey Scott, this is what you're going to do, and then I can go back and do it. What's done is done. Yeah, I'll think of it, maybe. Maybe not. So threading this machine, let me show that to you, because that's something I did want to cover. Coming off the top, you come through this thread guide right here. You come down to the tension discs. Always make sure your presser foot lever is in the up position like you see it right here, so that there's no pressure on those discs when you're threading it. Draw that thread all the way into those discs, come up over the top, and then you want to go between that take-up spring there. See that? How the thread is coming around the discs and then it's coming over that take-up spring. Then it comes through this thread guide right here. Don't put it through the hole like a couple people have done and they said, well, I don't understand why my thread keeps breaking. Yeah, don't run the thread through the hole, run it underneath. Up to the take-up arm then, right here. Back down, thread guide on the faceplate. Down here there's another thread guide. And then you're going to be threading this needle from left to right. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah. Cool. I have no idea what I was going to show you or tell you. I just, gone. Oh, I'll show you one other thing real quick before I forget. If you're winding a bobbin on this machine, you come here through the same thread guide right here, across the front of the machine, and then you're going to come through here. You'll notice there's a little opening on there. And you can see the little groove opening right there. And you come there, you come between the goal posts, wind it around your bobbin, and then to engage it, you're just going to push on here. Notice how that popped forward and it would go right between the Class 66 bobbin. Make sure you disengage your stop action and then wind your bobbin. And then this should either disengage automatically or you just push and it pops back up so it's not making contact with the rim of the balance wheel and creating drag. You don't want to have this on if you don't have to, if you're not using it. Yeah. All right, back to sewing. Let's do some ribbon material. Let's do some ribbon material. And I did not test this with this silk thread, so we'll have to wait and see. I might have to back off that presser foot pressure too. All right, let's give this a try. And to give us a little bit of room for that knot, I'm going to fold this ribbon material in half. It's still ridiculously wafer thin, like rice paper. Even when I fold it in half and I'm doing 2 layers, you can see that. And I probably should back off the presser foot pressure a little bit so that it's not pushing down too hard on this light 100% polyester ribbon material, but I'm going to leave it alone and I'll just kind of manage it slowly going through there. We're only doing a short little line of stitching anyway, so I think we'll be okay. All right, here we go. Take up arm all the way up. Here we go. Up. Boom. Yeah, it managed that actually really well. Really, really well. She did a brilliant job. Perfect timing. Look at that. Yeah, it actually managed that really well. Let's take a look at these. We'll look at that top stitch first, and then we'll flip it over and look at that lock stitch. 2 layers of 100% polyester ribbon material. Ridiculously thin stuff. And we'll see how this Class 66-1 managed it. I think we'll be impressed. Wow. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. I'm going to pause right there. Eventually. Folks, that is a solid page 34 plus stitch. Again, we're using 100% silk thread by Gutermann, which, you know what, if you're going to be using silk thread and sewing material like this ribbon material, it's a great fit. It's a great fit, it really is. But the fact that we're sewing it with a size 90-14 universal Schmetz needle, that makes it a little bit harder, which is kind of cool. Trying to plug my camera back in here. There we go. Let's go back again and look at that again. Wow. I didn't test this off camera, and I guess I didn't need to. We'll leave it right about there. Folks, that is, wow! Page 34 plus. Go to the book. Hey, you want to see a near perfect stitch that everyone else would say, hey, that's perfect? There it is, right there. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Yeah. Frohe Weihnachten if you live in Germany. Feliz Navidad. We're so close. Turn over, look at that lock stitch. This is a special time of the year, isn't it? This is a special time of the year. All of our friends that observe Hanukkah. Yeah. So many neat things happening, even in this crazy, messed up world. Folks, that's the lock stitch. That's the lock stitch. Totality of the stitching. I gotta hit the buzzer. Hold on a second.
That was easy.
That was easy. Between the protected full grain leather, the Italian leather, now this 100% polyester ribbon material, this 1918 Singer 66-1 is unstoppable. Unstoppable! So that's a definite pass. Let's come back out and admire the beauty of this gorgeous machine that belongs to Carmen. Was Carmen's grandmother's machine. How cool is that? So I'm going to throw this to the back with our other sew-offs that we've done on camera. And we're going to keep plowing forward until we run out of thread. Even then we might use something other than silk thread, but I'd like to see if I can push this silk thread all the way to the end. I don't have that many more sew-offs to do anyway. So now we're going to go to 100% cotton. 100% cotton. And I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half as if we're piecing it together. But because of my presser foot pressure is up a little bit higher, I'm going to fold it one more time as if we're piecing two pieces together. 4 layers of 100% cotton. And let's buzz down this and see what we think. %100% cotton, 4 layers. I'm going to change my camera angle a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. Stop moving, camera. There we go. All right, let's do this. 100% cotton. Here we go. So down and around on this. Down to the finish line, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Beautiful stitching. Oh my goodness, wait until you see this. Wait until you see this. 100% cotton. 100% cotton sewn with 100% silk thread. Wow. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to pause right there and just say, wow, we're done. Folks, that is off the charts as far as quality of stitching. the spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch, the presentation of the stitch, the glory of the stitch is off the hook. It's off the hook. I just got to say it. Yeah. I've been to New York. I know what it's about. It's off the hook. Jiminy crickets. Jiminy crickets. Jiminy crickets. Holy mackerel. Page 34 plus, folks. Let's turn over and look at the lock stitch. Making spirits rise, what fun it is to laugh and sing. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost a wheel and Joker got away. Hey, kids, don't sing that. Those aren't the real words. They might be. Here's our lock stitch, folks. Wow. Amazing, amazing. Mobile lost a wheel and Joker got away. Rob lady. Totality of the stitching, lock stitch, wow. Amazing. All right. Let me throw that to the back with the protected full grain leather, the Italian leather, the ribbon material, the partridge in a pear tree, and everything else. Carmen, Grandma's machine is ready to get the job done. Yes, she is. She's ready. She's ready. She's more than ready. She's ready, Freddy. She's Freddy ready. Unbelievable. Unbelievably gorgeous, too. Workshop magic, folks. Workshop magic. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? That was a fun song, wasn't it? I'm going to steal a couple of gum balls. I'm feeling inspired to have some gum. Paula, if you're in the premiere, grab some gum. Grab some gum. We'll chew gum together. Any of you else that have gum, chew it now. Let's do a gum break. And I'm going to turn up our Christmas holiday music just a wee bit. That way you can't hear me chewing my gum. Yeah. Wish to laugh and sing a sleighing song tonight. Hope you weren't counting. I grabbed 4 pieces. So now the machine is going to have to talk for me because I can't talk with 4 pieces in my mouth. I can, but it's not really, probably not proper to do that. Oh, it is so good. This I almost said this popcorn. This gumballs. Oh man. Double bubble. So here we've got 100% satin. 100% satin. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the cotton. I'm going to fold it over and we'll go through 4 layers of it, seeing how this machine can manage this so well. This makes me a little bit more nervous because this stuff tends to not want to feed very well. I've had challenges with this in the past And I hope I'm not overly challenged today with it. Well, you never know. All right, I'll give it my best. Actually, that's a good idea. What I'm going to do, make this a little bit more manageable, is I'm going to turn my stitch length control knob counterclockwise and shorten this stitch up a little bit. I think that might make it a little bit easier to feed it. So we're going to be closer to around 8 to 10 stitches. 8 to 10 stitches per inch. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batmobile lost a wheel and Joker got away. Hey, 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 hey. All right. Back to work, Scott. Back to work. You silly guy, you. All right, here we go. Ha ha! Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Come on, everybody sing. Make up your own words. Song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Come on! That's a fun song, isn't it? That is. So 100% satin. We're using a size 90-14 universal Schmetz needle. We're using 100% silk thread by Gutermann. I'll turn that just a little bit more. Jiminy Crickets, that thing like came to life. Woo! Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Again, I might bump up that bobbin case just slightly to tighten this up even more. This is real slippery stuff to sew. Well, we got some gorgeous stitching. Totality of the stitching. Go to right about there. Take my hand off the camera. Folks, that is some beautiful, beautiful stitching on this super tricky satin material. I've had challenges with this in the past, and this 66-1 that belongs to Carmen, that came from Carmen's grandmother, managed this much better than I expected, especially considering our setup. So let me turn it over and look at that lock stitch. And here's where you'll be able to see that lock stitch popping quite a bit more, and it's going to be a little bit overly poppy, which again tells me that we would need to shift our tension just a little bit more to that top stitch to get it just absolutely spot on. And if you look at that thread real carefully, you can see where it does have that tendency to get almost a little fuzzy, because it has a tendency to unravel. And that's the only criticism that I saw a lot of quilters write about when they're talking about this thread for trying to quilt, is it tends to unravel. Beautiful stitching though, look at that. Totality of the stitching, absolutely gorgeous. And this again is our lock stitch. This again is our lock stitch. So I'm going to give this a definite pass as well. Satin and silks are such a challenging material to sew, especially when your setup is not ideal. And Carmen's 66-1 just managed it beautifully. The feed factor and everything else in executing a very difficult sew-off. And I'll leave the rest of that open so that she can have a little bit of fun with it. Throw that to the rear. Folks, I only have one more sew-off I want to do, and it's a cotton blend material. You've seen me sew this stuff before. And I did quite a bit of sewing on this when I was getting the machine set up and fine-tuned to get ready for this premiere. So this I did do quite a bit of sewing on off camera. All right, let me lock that in and we'll do this final sew off, which of course probably has to be a sewing in the circle thing, right? Yeah. I am a fan of silk thread now, I'll tell you that right now. At least Gutermann silk thread. I can only imagine you could buy cheaper off brands of silk thread and you would find that it wasn't quite up to snuff with Gutermann. So I'm going to fold this cotton blend material in half. So we're going to have 2 layers of it, and we'll just do a little bit of buzzing around with it. I'll take us back to full stitch length. Just turning that stitch length knob over there completely clockwise so I can get the longest stitch possible. And we're going to go in a circle. But as beautiful as this song is, and I love it, I'll get something a little bit more peppy for sewing in a circle. I came upon a midnight clear, beautiful song. Oh yeah. Deck the halls with balls of holly, la 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 la, la 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 la, bum 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 bum. Yeah, this is sewing in a circle music, I think. Here we go. Clip that thread before I run over it. La 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 la. Off camera, I made a quick little adjustment on presser foot pressure. To the end and beyond. La, la, la. Reason to be jolly. La, 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 la. Gay apparel. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. I kind of sewed over my thread at the end anyway. That's okay. La, 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 la. what I'll do is around the border, I'll go to a much shorter stitch just to kind of frame it off a little bit. All right, I'm guessing this is going to be around 12 stitches per inch, but I have no idea. Maybe more, maybe less. Here we go! There we go. I kind of framed it with that smaller stitch just for fun. Let's take a look at these. La 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 la. All right, I'm gonna try to go around in a circle. Let's look at totality first. Beautiful stitching. And again, this is a cotton blend material. Kind of zoom in now, look at this stitching. Beautiful stitching. Again, I might bump up, and that outer row on the left side is going to be shorter. If you look at them side by side, you can see the stitching on the two inner rows is quite a bit longer, and then I shorten it up. And again, as you're sewing with a field of materials like this, here I would, again, look at increasing that bobbin pull or decreasing the upper tension a little bit to tighten this up even more. But that's some beautiful stitching. You look across there, beautiful, beautiful stitching. That's fun, that top row. You can really see the contrast there. I had it at full stitch length with that real bottom row, and then the center row and the top row I had shortened it up to probably, I'm guessing, around 10 to 12 stitches per inch. So again, the range of this 1918 Singer 66-1 is just as impressive as later models, from 6 stitches all the way down to 30 stitches per inch. We could go ultra satin if we wanted to, but it gives you an idea of the range just looking here, full range versus having shortened it up, and just spot on stitching all throughout. So let's look at that lock stitch now. I'll turn this around and we'll take a look at that lock stitching. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Oh, wow. Wow! But again, a little bit overly poppy. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Whoops. I just bumped the camera. That's what I'll tell you. All right, we're back. What I was going to say before I bumped the camera is this 66-1 has done a fabulous job. of managing a wide field of sew-offs using a tricky thread, 100% silk. And we've sewn everything from protected full grain leather to Italian leather to 100% polyester ribbon material. We've sewn 100% cotton. Now we've sewn this here, this cotton blend material as well. It almost, when you look at the texturing of it, it almost gives the impression of being a type of canvas, doesn't it? Think about the texture of canvas, and there you go. So if it has any canvas in it at all, we just sewed it with 100% silk thread, which is insane, and laid down page 34 stitching, both with the lock stitch, which we're looking at right now, kind of hard to see, and also the top stitch as well. So, am I impressed with this 66-1? Yeah, I am. And yeah, I poured countless hours into the machine to get it ready for this premiere. But you know what? When you see the evidence of this, whether it's, and I'll come out on this shot a little bit, whether it's this cotton blend material, this super tricky satin that we sewed as well. And the satin is like off the hook as far as the quality of stitching. That's a better shot there. So again, cotton blend, this super tricky satin that we sewed as well. 100% cotton, beautiful stitching as well on that. 100% polyester, ribbon material, 2 layers of that, and laid down absolute page 34 stitching. Italian leather, drop dead gorgeous stitching, larger stitch, smaller stitch. No difference on the lock stitch, it's absolutely as it should be. And then finally, last but not least, protected full grain leather, laying down drop dead gorgeous stitching, top stitch, and also the more obtrusive lock stitch. It's hard to see on this particular type of leather. So not the biggest sew-off sandwich that you've ever seen, but if I add the off-camera sew-offs as well, it's definitely a fair and accurate test to feel as if this machine can graduate and can move on with life, having fun with Carmen through the Christmas holiday and just celebrating the renewal and rejoice with Grandma's machine and what she is capable of doing now. This is the good stuff right here. So I'm going to throw this on the bed and wrap this premiere up. So I appreciate everybody's attention and patience and your participation as well. Hopefully you've stepped out of the shadows and you've made yourself known. There's nothing wrong with being in the shadows, but it's great to meet new folks from all around the world that share our love and passion for incredible machines like this Singer 66-1 from 1918. I never did the math, and I didn't look at the chat when someone typed in the answer, so I got to do the math myself real quick just to see if I can believe how gorgeous this machine is now after all of my work. Calculator. 2021, 1918. 103 years old. Well, that would be in September. Whoops, that was wrong. 17,000 years old. Who knew? 103 years old, and I think the birth date was in September. So it's already been September. We're in November now. So 103 years old, soon to turn 104 years old. And this is what, you know what, if we could all be 103 or 104 years old and look like this, wow, I think that'd be pretty hot. I mean, I just got to say it, that'd be super hot. So with that, I'm going to ring the bell. And get a little bit closer to Carmen's machine before we wrap this up officially. But you know what? I went through this whole sew-off and I never turned the light on. The light was off that whole time. See? The light on, light off, light on, light off, light on. All right, we'll leave the light on now. I had enough additional lights that we didn't really need the lighting assembly on, but it's all been rewired, so why don't we just use it? But again, look at that stitching on leather with silk thread. And we still have just a little bit of silk thread. We're getting down there. We're getting way down there. So yeah, it comes 110 yards, which equates to 100 meters, 110 yards. 100% silk, suede something or other. I don't know what that means. Anybody's like a silk expert. At any rate, 100% silk is what we've got. And this, of course, is by none other than Gutermann, which is, you know, they just do it right, don't they? They make some great stuff. So, thank you to Carmen for the opportunity of, let me move these out of the way for a second. Thank you for the opportunity of being able to take Grandma's machine and bring her back from the dead. She had mechanical issues. She had electrical issues. She had aesthetic issues. And now she is just like, wow. Wow! And 103 years old. Unbelievable. All right, well, I would love to stay here and celebrate more, but I've got more projects to jump into. And I've got customers that are anxious and looking forward to the possibility of getting their machine back sometime in the future. Yeah. All right, let's get the lights off. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Singer. Yeah, that is one of your babies. You're right. Singer repairman. Dr. Singer, you're just, no, let me crank this up. You're a little bit too short. I don't need to tell you that. With you hanging out with Zoomy Newbie. There we go. We can see the guys now.